Things were quiet for a few days, but let's get right to it with what Loki had to say on the Terraria Discord. 0.5 is out for Android, waiting on it to propagate to iOS, and then we'll have the changelog up. Pinhead Pat wrote, Loki, so will Amazon release in a week or so? After 0.5 gets to iOS, of course. To that, Loki responded, don't have exact timing. Once it's in the queue, it takes the time it takes. Just hammering F5 for iOS now. And so I obviously don't have an iOS phone, so I can't really help you there. I'm not sure when this will come out, but it sounds like any second now, or any day now at any rate, for iOS devices. And of course 0.5 is out for Android, so that's good. Loki went on to write, not on iOS yet. That is the only reason you don't have a changelog. Wearing out my F5. Louise wrote, already released? Loki's answer, on Android yes, iOS is taking its sweet time, but the button has been pressed for both. It's kind of interesting that it seems to take different amounts of time for these two platforms. I guess, at least in this instance, the Google folks at Android were just quicker to approve of the software change. Hopefully, if you're on an Apple device, you'll get the latest hotfix, which I assume is the final hotfix any day now. Anyway, changing gears a little bit, Safe Man wrote, guys, the forums are looking fancy. Now, if you're curious, go to forums.terraria.org to see the upgraded official forums. That change was quicker than I thought it would be. I know they had recently mentioned that they were going to work on improving the official forums. Evidently, that work is done. So there you go. I'll link to a post from Tunnel King as well, and that post discusses the changes and currently known issues with the new official forums. Check the video description if you're curious and want to click on that link. But back to Mobile Terraria, Dogbone wrote, my game is hanging on one map at settling liquids, usually at 62 to 70%. I've tried all the solutions, such as using a different character, hard reset, uninstall, reinstall Terraria, and I'm still having the problem. The game loads maybe once every 50 or so times if I go on local multiplayer. Any advice or help? Running an iPhone XR with iOS 13.1 and Terraria version 1.3.0.7.3. So they're running a good phone, obviously. And Deviskio from DR Studios was kind enough to respond, and he wrote, hey, we've seen that in some cases, if there's a high amount of liquids moving, it can take a while. Generally, it's a one-time process unless the liquid is infinitely overflowing from the map. If you could upload here the world file, we could have a more thorough look. One thing you can do in the meanwhile is enable the FPS counter in the video settings. During settling liquids, you should see a bracket value. If that is still moving, it's most likely still trying to settle high amounts of liquid. But please, if you can upload the world here so we can check. And then Unit 1, who's an official forums moderator, went the extra mile, and Unit 1 wrote, using your world file, I was able to open the world 100% of the time. It just took a long time. I opened it 4 times and clocked each time around 35 minutes. Going off of what Naviskio mentioned, I figured you had a ton of water somewhere, and for me, I normally accidentally flood my underworld, so I brought with me a super absorbent sponge and went looking down in your underworld. You had a bunch pooled up on the left-hand side and then a huge amount right above the underworld area on the left all the way near the edge of the world. I mopped it all up, then saved the world. Now when I open the world, it opens immediately, so the water on the left was very likely the problem. I'll attach the newly saved world file here if you wanted to use it. The only changes I made to the world was removing the water on the left and leaving a handful of gravestones in the underworld. So many red devils. So if you see gravestones with a character name of Guide, that was me. And that was an excellent bit of service by Unit 1, and now if any of you are struggling with this particular problem, maybe now you know what to look for. But moving on, Nakano15 wrote, PC and Terraria news, nearly nothing. Line4's responded to that. We've shared a ton of spoilers for it. If we don't hold on to something, then there won't be any surprises left. A fair point. And now onto the Switch port of Terraria. NSK1341 wrote, sounds to me like the port was rushed. I'll care about performance issues when I'm actually playing the game. Loki, is split screen support going to be part of the upcoming patch, or you still don't know, can't say. 3 months. And to that, Loki wrote, rushed? I don't know if I would say that, but yeah, I know the Pipeworks team knows of the issues out there. Depends on how it tests out would be my best estimation there. If the performance is substantially worse than in the existing modes, to the extent that it directly impacts gameplay, then that becomes something that the team will have to consider. That's pretty much the best answer I could personally give, not being a coder, etc. myself. I don't think anyone on any team underestimates the desire for this feature to be in, so it is a very high priority, and yeah, work has been done. It then just becomes how that balance of performance versus feature plays out in playtesting, which is the same with any feature or content, to be fair. And that's it for now. Obviously the big news is the, again, presumably final hotfix for Mobile Terraria. The 0.5 hotfix is already out for Android. By the time you're viewing this video, it might be out for iOS, and then it seems that the next order of business for Mobile Terraria is to release the Amazon device version, which should be in a few days, maybe a couple weeks. And I know there are probably quite a few people who are really eager for that. The good news, of course, if you do have an Amazon device, you're going to cut right to the latest hotfix, so you're going to circumvent a lot of the bugs and errors that regular mobile players were experiencing. But anyway, that seems to be the lay of the land in Mobile Terraria. Looks like they're still working on split screen for the Switch. Hopefully that becomes a reality sooner rather than later, and hopefully the Switch is capable of rendering at a smooth enough frame rate to add that feature. And then I guess we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer for any more Journey's End content. That is obviously the next giant chunk of content, and really the final chunk of content for Terraria at all. And if that's to hit before the end of the year, well, we're in the final quarter of the year, so between now and the end of the year, hopefully we get it. And between now and then, of course, we should get some more spoilers, because they've been very generous so far with spoilers. Anyway, the news is obviously slowing down a bit of late, but I'll keep my ear to the ground and be sure to post any videos that are justified given the release of news. I don't want to post just a bunch of filler content, and that's why I've taken maybe a little more time off for making videos. It's not that I've forgotten the channel, rest assured, I just don't want to waste your time by making videos just for the sake of making videos. So anyway, that's that. Any news, I'll be sure to post another one. Until next time, guys, thank you.